Hello, everyone. I don't know if you saw recently, but there was a leak that the Dwarven rulebook is right on the horizon, and a shot of the back pages of the rulebook was revealed to the internet. It had some information that was rather interesting. Part of me liked it, part of me was a little disappointed. It had two new armies that you could run with dwarves. One was a Dwarven royal blood type army. I'm going to put a link to the video and like all the actual stuff because I don't have it right here in front of me. But one was a Dwarven royal blood type army. And it seems like you could run like perhaps like a young Thorgrim grudge bearer in the army, which seems pretty cool. And like probably if I had to guess like some focus on like hammers and iron breakers and things like that, like more elite type units and long beards probably making up a bigger part of your core. Who knows? But yeah, it seemed to be like kind of the speculation on what the army might be. The other one actually kind of caught my interest. It was like a dwarven expedition type battle force you could take, and yeah, I don't know, something about like dwarves going on an adventure into like the deeps of the mountains and like mapping out tunnel systems or just going into the jungles on an expedition. I think all that stuff sounds really cool. So that army I'm actually pretty excited about. The Royal Bloods one sounds cool. I'm sure like maybe for like a bit more of a your competitive type of dwarf gamer. But yeah, the expedition force seemed pretty cool to me. The thing that I was a little disappointed about was we saw some pictures of like new Slayers and a lot of Slayers kind of coming back into production when they're going to be releasing this Dwarf wave, as well as I'm drawing a blank on his Ungram Iron Fist, like a new model, or you could just use it as like a generic Dwarf Slayer Lord type model. We saw that, and I was kind of expecting like, oh, okay, we're going to get like a Slayer army. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to do a rough cut because I want to show it on the camera. Okay, I got kind of similar to this book here. Hold on, sorry, I got to bring the thing up here. Kind of similar to this book here, which we got the Slayer rules for, like an entire custom Slayer army back in the day. Let's see if we can get the actual pages here. Oh, such a good book. I played in like Games Workshop back when this first came out, but yeah, they had like actual rules for like a whole Slayer army and stuff that you could run in this. And I was kind of hoping that we would be getting that with this Dwarf rulebook, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. If I had to guess, what they're going to do is when you take like a Slayer Lord, like specifically like the Legendary Lord options that they give in that book, if I had to guess, they'll let you like take Slayers as core, maybe like as an option when making your list. Like they start as like that 25% fundamental unit in a lot of the new rulebook here, how they do stuff. So that would be pretty cool. And even though it's kind of probably going to be tied to like a named character, which I'm not a huge fan of, the fact that like you will have that as well as two other armies like that you can kind of run, so you'll essentially have like three different options, could be pretty cool. And again, this is just speculation, so I could be completely off on all of this. Don't get upset at me if the rulebook comes out and like, you know, there's no option to run a Slayer army. I'm just really hopeful for it. And that's going to take me into the second part of this video. I've been doing a ton of work on an army that I plan on running for the League. I mentioned it in my prior hobby video, if you guys ended up watching that. It was kind of talking about a little bit of a Slayer pirate force at like the 500 point scale I'm going to run. I've changed up my, like, basically I wrote out like a list of like the stuff I really want, and like I had to figure out how to accommodate it for like the 500 point structure. And I figured out the best way to do that. I'm going to do another cut real quick and give you guys a little showing of the army and everything. So enjoy that, and yeah, let me know your thoughts on it. So I've been working away for about a week now on this little long-drawn Slayer pirate army. It is still heavily a work in progress. You can tell there's some characters that have gotten a bit more love than others, but I'd say across the board, it's pretty much at that like ready to be played stage. You know, like everything's got all the colors it needs on there. It's just a lot of the minis need a lot of detail work kind of put into them at this point. And obviously, with the current rules we have for dwarves, you can't really take an entire Slayer army. I don't even think Slayers can actually lead the army because of like the loner rule. So I have like a master engineer that's running this army, and you can't take Slayers for that 25% that you need when it comes to designing a list. So I have a 5-man unit of Thunderers and a 5-man unit of Dwarven Rangers. If you're curious what those exactly are going to be, it's the 2 units on the far right. The back unit that's got a little bit of a water texture on it, those are going to be my Thunderers, and then the unit in front is going to be the Dwarven Rangers. I wanted these guys to be 2 separate units for the list I'm making, but depending on what kind of game I'm playing, I could potentially run them together as one big unit. So it's kind of why like they look like they're themed together. But I figured what I'm going to do with the 5 in front that kind of have those jungle plants, I'm going to add a bit more foliage and jungle-y kind of stuff to their bases to give that sense that they're the rangers and they're kind of progressing forward ahead of the rest of these guys that are just starting the coastal advancement. Also decided to take a bolt thrower. I thought this was kind of cool just on the whole nautical theme. Like, you know, they're shooting like a harpoon into a monster and like the rope will kind of tie to the ship and they can use it to like drag it in or something like that. To be honest, I kind of wanted to take a cannon because I felt like it was a bit better for the whole pirate theme. Maybe even an organ gun. But unfortunately, at the 500 point scale, that's just not really going to be possible for my army list here, especially if I want to take like a good sized Slayer unit, which I do because it's kind of like the center theme of everything. So yeah, we're just going to be going with the cheaper bolt thrower option for this list. But I still think it does a good job tying to the theme of everything. And, you know, this is a Slayer group. They're meant to be, like, kind of these monster hunters. And I think a bolt thrower is something you would want when it comes to, like, hunting monsters. So, cool weapon to have for the list. We got the main unit of Slayers here. I'll just let you know now, I can't afford to take an 18-man unit of Slayers in a 500-point list. This is actually going to be an 11-man unit. But I wanted to just build a full unit out because I like Dwarven Slayers a lot. I've always wanted to kind of have a unit like this. And at some point, I'm sure I'm going to be running this force in like a larger point game, and I'll want more Slayers like that. They probably are the most developed of all the units I have so far. A couple of the old official long-drawn Slayers in the unit I painted up way back, and I basically rebased them on these new bases with all these guys. But yeah, they definitely got the most attention, especially with the whole theming of their bases. The back row is a bunch of like collapsed ship parts and like debris. The idea perhaps that their like boat or like whatever kind of vessel they were using to get to the shore crashed into some vile reef or like some kind of sea monster that started pulling them down, and yeah, things just started collapsing and the dwarves kind of had to scatter and get to the shoreline. And to represent that, the scattered remains of the ship are the back row, and then we've got like a bunch of coral reefs and rocks and stuff that the dwarves are kind of jumping over for the second row of infantry. And then the very front row is the dwarves that have finally made it to the coastline, which is why you got like a little bit of sand on that very front row. On a couple of the bases, you can see like little octopus suckers and tendrils trying to snatch up the dwarves, and some of them are trying to like hack away or jump over them as they make it to the coastline. And that ties into like the final, well, one of the final things here. Long Drong himself, he kind of just made it to the coastline. He's going to be at the front of the unit, and he's proudly just either blasted off or slashed one of those octopus tendrils clean off and is triumphantly standing on top of it. Very much in his identity, he likes to go around and spend his earnings from their adventures on slaying giant sea monsters. So I figured that would be a kind of cool theme to tie to the unit and the base as well for him. And then we have our ship's master engineer. I haven't come up with a name yet for this lad, but pretty cool model. And he's actually going to have a gun, at least I plan to, in the list. He's smoking a little cigar there. He's got the whole Slayer attitude going on. I need to obviously do some work integrating those skulls a bit better into the base. I have like a sand dirt effect thing that I'm going to apply around the edges to integrate it a little bit better. A lot of the dwarves kind of need that on some of their models, like the shields that the guys had dug in on the Ranger and Thunderers unit need that, and a couple of the shells and other things and props that the guys have on their bases. But you can definitely see it needs to be integrated on this guy especially a bit better. If you're curious what any of the third-party miniatures I use to make up all these Dwarven Pirate Slayers are, I'll put the links up in the video description and the company names right here. So feel free to check those out. I found a lot of really cool ones at Mom's Miniatures. Some of them needed a little bit of rescaling to be a little bit better suited for Warhammer the Old World, but after a little bit of tweaking, they came out really nice. Also going to show a couple of work through process shots here so you guys can see how I started and where we ended up here. And again, this was done like probably a week, maybe a week and a half ago, so I'm pretty happy with the progress that was made on this force over kind of such a brief period of time. I think they look pretty cool. But they're still in need of a lot of little touch-up work and details. I'm sure you could tell a couple of them have their eyes painted. A lot of them just have like a dark shadow area over the eyes instead of any actual detail work. And yeah, even though they're pretty vibrant, I think colors could pop even more, and some need to be blended a bit more. And yeah, there's a lot of cleaning up and stuff that needs to be done. But that is the beauty of the league that we're playing in. It is a great time to partake in these kind of hobby goals and get all the stuff done that you needed to. And hopefully by the end of the month, we're going to be looking at a fully completed Pirate Dwarf Slayer force. And that's going to just about cover everything in the video, folks. Keep an eye out for all of the stuff regarding the Summer in Lustria League over this coming month. I'm going to be posting NPC stats, I'm going to be posting battle reports, and all kinds of other stuff relating to that whole subject. Hope you enjoy. Have a great day. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.